What is a self? What is yourself? What is myself? What is no self or not self? Or ANATTA is the teaching in Buddhism of no fundamentally existing I am self, as my teacher used to say. He used to, you stand unconditionally on your I am self. Not good. I got the teaching of no self on my mind today, and I want to not teach the teaching of no self, but approach the principle, which is very deep, from a different angle. Sometimes I make videos about this teaching of no self, not because I manifest it as some enlightened being, but because I think it, already we're in trouble. I think it's the most important teaching in Zen and in Buddhism. It's the most important teaching. Everything comes from that teaching of not a fundamental separation between anything. So, the reason I got this on my mind, friends, it caught me on a weird day. You knocked on my door, I didn't want to answer it, but I let you in, and now you're going to hear it, okay? I finished a very long project that I began when I left the Zen Buddhist monastery 7 years ago. I had this idea for a novel, and it's taken me, clearly, a long time to finally bring it to completion, okay? And it is what it is at this point. There's some tweaks, I've got it out to some readers, etc. But it's really, it's a big deal. It's good to do something over a long period of time and then complete it because you see yourself, you see something. I mean, so these are just a few notebooks that I have. I just bagged and stuffed under my bed like, dudes, I mean, there's a lot of notes. It's heavy. Like the bags are heavy. I can't carry them all at once. I have to separate them. There's so many notebooks. That's some guy did all that work. Somebody. Who was that person? Who am I? Where is it? That was the first koan my teacher gave me or gave any of us. He would say, "Where are you? Where are you? Where is the I am? Where is my me? Where is it?" I finish a project like that, and I come up for air, and I start looking around, and the first thing I see is a ton of dust, because I was putting off cleaning. I was really intensely in this final first draft, so it was like my 10th first draft, if you will. So it took a lot of effort, a ton of effort, right? And I really am the kind of person that has to throw myself into things completely. Otherwise, I start to get a lot of anxious, self-reflective energy. But then you finish the project, and that anxious, self-reflective energy is waiting for you. So what is this no self that relieves us from this anxious, infinite hall of self-reflecting mirrors where we're caught up inside of ourselves or myself on a day like today, where I'm really reflecting on everything that's happened in my life since I left the monastery 7 years ago. Holy bananas. And it's funny because I have a bunch of notebooks here, and none of them will help me because none of them is this. Where am I? Where are you? Where are you? My teacher would say that over and over. It was the first koan, it was the only koan in a sense. Where is, grab the self, pull it out and show it to me, is the famous Zen exchange between a teacher and a student. The student is like, my mind, I can't get a grasp on it. I can't control it. I can't make it feel good. It's torture. It's going on. And the Zen master is like, holy cow, we better do something. Pull your mind out and I'll fix it. Show it to me. Show it to me. Where is it? And of course he can't. And the student gets enlightened, right? Friends, I guess I want to just maybe, not that one. Maybe, I don't know. It's funny, it's interesting, like this, one of the reasons I like to do personal writing, my book Zen Confidential and Single White Monk, it's very personal writing. And I like to take the most personal things that I identify with as me, that I'm embarrassed about, that I'm ashamed of. And I play with them on the page, these experiences, until they're not mine anymore. And the deeper I go into the stuff I don't want to talk about because it's so unique to me alone, the more universal it becomes. I mean, it's interesting. I was looking at this. This is like really personal. If you're family, go away. This is for strangers, okay? This is a diary entry, July 11, Tuesday, 2017. So this is right after I'd gotten out of the monastery and I had gone home. And I was like dealing with all this stuff. And so it's, my girlfriend says that I was talking about wanting to resolve some things with my father. And she says, if I have to sit down and have a conversation with him, she said, conversation is for pussies. We were driving through Highway O we were driving down the opposite, I don't know. We were driving down the opposite direction of Highway O that I usually drive. Highway O is my childhood home. I was burning up with wretched shame and indignation. I'm sure you were. She helped me. I just told her, I said, when my father was looking at you and then looking at me, I know exactly what he was thinking. What are you doing with this guy? That's a fair question. You're too good for him. Kind of true. I know my father. I know that's what he was thinking. And then I skip to a flashback here in my journal entry. I say, yesterday Tony, my girlfriend, told me, when you said that, that was the saddest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. Captured a moment in time here. And then she says something so interesting. I was clearly like really loving my girlfriend, who's been my girlfriend now for 7 years, for the first time here, really getting to know her. And I'm resolving these things that have to do with my dad at the time. None of that is relevant anymore. Like, it's gone. My dad is almost a decade older now, and he's very old, and these issues they dissolve like a superstorm, It's not just myself that has changed, of course. It's my girlfriend. And it's my relationship with her. And it's my view of her has shifted and evolved and transformed, right? I mean, she has this beautiful quote here. She says, last night before Tony said something, she was looking at a flower. And then she thought of all my dad's guns. And she said, this flower I am holding in my hand right now is more powerful than that gun. Power is through growth and vulnerability, not the gun. She said, our society is too far gone to realize this, but it is the truth. The power is in flowers, in growth, not in guns. And as I was trying to work through this stuff with my father and come to grips with what I was going to do with my life now that I had left the monastery, at one point, clearly I think she was getting sick of me, babbling, my girlfriend says, as we drove, she said, you have to change your coordinates. She said, you have to change your coordinates. Because my thinking at the time was I need to confront my father and talk all this stuff out. That's why she said, conversation is for pussies. She said, you have to change your coordinates. You have to go out there and become the kind of person that you think is good enough for the woman that you love. It has nothing to do with your father. And she was not saying that to me like, go out and become a man that's good enough for me. She was kind of trying to get me change my coordinates from this dynamic that I was in with my father to focusing on my own path and my own life, right? And she says, can I make an observation? I have watched my father and my brother and her ex and his father, and I have noticed the same dynamic over and over. Sons are brooding and quiet around their fathers. They want something their fathers cannot provide. She said, forget it. Your dad ain't never going to provide it. Change your coordinates. Hey, thank you, Tony, of 8-9 years ago, because I did. I focused on my own life and knots that I was tied up in around a particular conflict at that time, having to do with my father and with father figures, because I had just broken free from the cloud of, I don't want to call it oppression, but broken free from the cloud of scandal and drama and trauma around my spiritual father figure or grandfather figure, the Roshi. Like I was dealing with all this male energy at the time. You know, at the time I thought I was a guy who had to confront his father. That's what I thought. And I let it be, and it resolved itself with my father. You're never gonna really grasp yourself. You're never really gonna get it. You're never really gonna get it. You're never gonna get it right. You're never gonna like get it perfect. You're never gonna perfectly see it, the self that you are. Like the eye can't see the eye. This right hand can't grab this hand, right? We could say maybe that the self arises as a kind of friction, is how it used to be put to me. So when I go like this, there's a sound. That sound is like the self. It's an arising from different things coming together. The 5 skandhas is what they're called in Buddhism. Form or rupa, consciousness, perceptions, sensations, mentation or mental activity or emotion. There's different ways of translating the 5 skandhas, but there's a handful of a heap of elements or factors that intermingle and give rise to the self. But the self is never going to be truly there in a solid, clear, graspable, like rock solid kind of way. Even though we, clearly myself, keep trying to affirm this self and make it real and get other people to affirm it. Like how much time, effort, and energy do we get trying to have our father affirm us, right? When my girlfriend said, change your coordinates, she was telling me a Zen Buddhist lesson, whether she knew it or not. If your coordinates are aiming you, as mine were, at seeking affirmation of yourself from someone else, you're in trouble, because nobody else can affirm you or yourself because yourself isn't there, fundamentally. That's the teaching of ANATTA. There's a lot of mental activity going on, and I'm just going to let it be and not identify with any of it. It's sloppy, it's messy, there's intergalactic space dwarves inside me doing their semantric juju, and I'm just going to let it be. Interesting stuff. I have a little moment of crisis here. I say, I fear I will not be able to overcome my shyness and insecurity, and worst of all, my anxiety that I will always be doubling back self-consciously on myself around her, my girlfriend. This is when I had been single, dudes, for a long time. I was a monk in a monastery, and I had like I had a whole thing, but that's another thing. But mostly it was 13 years of like not having any emotional or sexual partner. And now I was like dipping my toe back in that water, and it was a little bit scary. So I'm like, oh, I'm scared. I'm doubling back self-consciously on myself around her, and that my kisses will become stiff and awkward. And her remark, you are such a good, passionate lover, that she will come to regret it. I feel like I hit the lottery with her. I feel like I hit the jackpot, is what I say here. Boy. And then on it goes. This guy trying to put himself together on the page, deconstructing himself at the same time, going into donuts that I ate for the day. I told Antonia today about killing an elephant, the George Orwell story, and on it goes, right? And then there's other things in here. We did a journey to Peru together, Antonia and I, and we went to the Amazon, and we did a whole ayahuasca retreat there with this shaman. I found such a interesting quote. We were at dinner there were two other people with us on this ayahuasca retreat, two other students, aside from the shaman and his assistants. There were two ayahuasca folk, and they were from Israel. And here's what I said, dudes, this was 2017, okay? This was 2017. Just a few days ago, it was the anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel. And then I was flipping through this today, and I randomly came on this page. We ate our dinner, and because they were Israeli, we ate our dinner, and we spoke of the Palestine-Israel conflict. And Sophie said, no, it will never end. The conflict will never end. Why? She said, because without conflict, there is no Israel. Whew. I mean, she said that. I'm not Israeli. She said that. I don't know, and I don't mean to single out Israelis here. I mean, because it could apply to all of us. But boy, talk about holding on to an idea of a self and creating a self out of conflict with others. That's what this dear woman, Sophie, was telling me. I mean, what a deep comment from the heart of her war-torn country. And I asked her, is that conflict ever going to end? And she said, no, the conflict will never end, because without the conflict, there is no Israel. I mean, look, or go ahead and come at me in the comments if you don't disagree with what you say. But I know what that means. I mean, without my conflict with my father, who am I? What kind of a man am I? Like, you know, one of the ways we define ourselves oftentimes, and one of the ways we construct an artificial false sense of self, is through our conflicts, right? Like through my conflict with my father, through my father's conflict with his father. Hamas defines themselves through their, I don't want to go into that, okay? But suffice to say that different religions bash into each other, and from that friction, a self arises, a Jewish self, a Palestinian self, or a Islamic self, and a Buddhist self in Myanmar, or even a Zen self and a New Age self. I always used to compare and contrast the strict, serious, samurai Zen way of life with the cheesy Californian New Age way of life, right? We construct these identities, and they are chimerical and ephemeral, and then we believe them, especially like political identities, right? We believe in them, and then this suffering arises, right? But the teaching that my teacher gave was that the foundation for the self is unity. Okay? It's unity. It's you could call it Buddha nature or God, Allah, Atman, the oneness, the source, Dharmakaya. It's unity, right? And then the unity has we could say, he said, like 2 aspects. This is like the simplest way we can look at the world. This and that, right? This and that. Otherwise, it's just pure unity. There's no separation. Everything is holding everything so tight that there's no self, because they're each other. We're each other. That's the fundamental condition. But it's boring. My teacher used to say there's no toilets and there's no restaurants in the unified state or heaven. And toilets and restaurants are interesting. So we're born in this life. And when that unity separates, the simplest way to think about it, the purest way, my understanding of what he was saying was, like, it separates into 2 things, right? Because what else is one going to become but 2? And it's this and that, or here and there, or past and future, right? And our character has, you could say, or our selves are composed of these 2 fundamentally complementary and yet opposing activities of plus and minus, here, there, past, future, mother, father, sperm, egg, right? Or inside and outside. And the way I've always thought of that in terms of the 5 skandhas is, or just, you can reduce the 5 skandhas to these 2 things, inside, outside. And then the way I always think about it is like, you know, I drop this notebook. Waves, sound waves came. And they touched my ear, and then like this whole electrochemical super process happened, and my brain lit up with sound, and then I grasped it as a notebook hitting the ground, and then it became a thought, and now I'm talking about it and I'm manifesting it, right? But so there's like an outside and an inside, and the outside comes into me and becomes part of me and erupts in there, and then the inside comes back out, right? But fundamentally the 2 are united. There's a continuum between inside, outside, past, future, me, you. And when I say a continuum, that's another way of saying fundamentally there's no separation. Fundamentally, the situation is unity, or the source. You know. Okay, I hope maybe that isn't too annoying. You know, thanks for listening. I don't play no guitar. If you want to support this channel, go to patreon.com/showsonjackhobner. Patreon.com/showsonjackhobner. You can support this channel there. You can also go to the video description. There's a link to PayPal, which is very nice. People are so generous. Thank you for that. It's one of the ways I pay these electric bills, to keep on making these videos for you, sharing our spiritual path together, for lack of a better phrase, sharing it together. Thank you for listening, folks. Until next time, keep on keeping on. Where is myself? Ain't got no me. Is this a bummer? Maybe it means I'm free. Gonna cut that.